Welcome to this week's episode of Art Wisdom with Chris and Kat. And this week it's part 2 of why your marketing's not working. So last week we spoke on purpose. This week we're speaking on your mission. And your mission basically is just how you're going to get to where you're going to get. So say if you're building a house, you really need to know how many bedrooms you want, how many living rooms, how many bathrooms. So you've got a plan of actually what you actually want. So I don't know about you,
And I
Kat.
think it's like a North Star.
Yeah,
So it's like, where is the top of the mountain? Like, if your purpose is I love climbing, the mission is, where are you climbing?
yeah, yeah. And we talked about purpose and this is mission. And I'm not sure about you, but when I started, we had the business, busy in the business. The last thing I was thinking about was actually purpose and mission. I was like too busy sort of keeping track of where we were going. And
Yeah.
I did think it's just all, lip service, write it down, file it away, and you don't look at it again. But years later, 3 4 years later, it's one of the most important things to have.
Mm,
And it is, these two things are why your marketing is not working. So
mm.
bear with us. If you don't switch off, because these two things, we've done the purpose, now we're on to the mission, are things that will really set you onto the right path with where you want to go and what you want to do.
Yeah. Like, one of the things that, so Gary Vee says this thing called clouds and dirt, right? Dirt is the everyday, step by step, the things that you do in your business. And clouds are that like high level vision of where you're going. And you need both. The problem is, a lot of us, we get into like doing artwork, we get painting, we get bogged down, we get like trying to make TikToks, trying to make this,
Yeah.
and we get so consumed by like the minutiae and like just trying to keep on top of everything that we forget where we even going. Like, what is the point? Where's the, not necessarily the end goal, because the beautiful thing about the mission is that it updates. Sometimes it updates as you go, because it's not something that changes every day, but as you reach a new vantage point, it kind of refines itself. But ultimately, it's like, if you don't think about where, like, what is the bigger picture here, it
I
makes
think
such a
people
massive.
don't. I think as artists as well, we don't think about, it's allowing ourselves to dream as well, isn't it? To go,
Yeah,
well, where do we want to go with this, and not just the trudge of every day.
right. Because I think a lot of, as you said, like, we get like wrapped up in the just when can I make the next sale? When can I do this? Rather than, and the funny thing is that once you start to define a path,
Mm.
it's like magic, because the truth is then you set, like, I believe that all of the opportunities are surrounding us at all
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
but when we are focusing on it, or when we've written it down, like what our mission is, it suddenly becomes laser clear. So, and I'll use this example of like paradigm shifting. Like, if I say look around your room and then say the color blue, all of a sudden everything that's blue is standing out. And they say, if I look around your room and then maybe think about the color red or orange, all of a sudden everything that's like red or orange is like bam. It was there before. It's just now you've got it in your mind. It's become into focus. And opportunities.
And then with that exercise, do it. If you've never done it, do the exercise. Look around your room. Stop this now. Look around your room.
Yeah,
Look at everything blue. Look at everything blue. And then I'll say to you, what did you see that was brown?
yeah, nothing. Right. And then all of a sudden, all the brown stuff appears. And it's like, opportunity works a bit like that. So, opportunities are all around us, but sometimes we don't put two and two together because we've not in our heads, you know, and the way that our subconscious minds work, the reason why it's important to come up with a mission, as in like the where are we going, like the North Star, not just like the why are we doing it, it's like where are we going?
Yeah.
Um, it's like, the way that I would describe it is, it's like you create this. So when you have like a subconscious thought, let's say you were in a party, right, and you were met someone, and then like next day or 2 days later, you're there in the shower washing your hair, and you go, God, what was that person's name? I can't remember it, what was it? And then, and about 3 or 4 hours later, you go, oh, it was such and such. It just struck you.
Yeah.
And it's like a moment of inspiration, or like a realization, epiphany. But here's the thing, you weren't thinking about it consciously all of that time. It was like you were thinking about it subconsciously. So once you start to write your mission down, once you start to focus on it, what happens is step one is that, that blue versus orange or whatever color it was that you might want to say. Firstly, the things that you want become envisioned because you start to notice things. You just do. It's strange, that saying, like, when you look around for trouble, you'll find it. But the
Yeah.
same goes for opportunity. You look around for opportunities for something specific, and your brain goes, all the time. But then on top of that, it's like an extra layer. Then you start to get this backwhirring of the subconscious mind where you have realizations and epiphanies about things that you already know are available to you, but you've just never made the connection. Like, oh yeah, your mission might be that I want to be featured in this particular gallery, and you might have, in your back of your mind, you're like, oh well, maybe actually I can make an introduction through this person. Oh yeah, actually I totally forgot. Like, so there's like all of those things to consider. That's why when you actually write it down, you're more likely, in fact, it's like you will be just, I feel like most of the time people feel like their wheels are spinning. They're just trapped in the mud of life. They're never like actually getting out of it because they aren't really focusing on where they want to go. There's like opportunities to get out of whatever bit you're stuck in all around you, but just where do you want to go more than
Yeah.
can you go somewhere?
And I think that's the honesty of, first off, what do you want to achieve? What is it for you that you want to achieve? And it doesn't have to sound good to anybody else. You don't even have to tell anybody else about it. This is your secret desires. And they've got to
Yeah.
be, it's got to excite you, because if it doesn't excite you, you're not going to be enthusiastic to do all the work that it takes to get you there.
100%. So considering the mission as a 10-year proposition, why is 10 years so important, Chris?
Well, it's important because on your way to your mission, you'll go like that, and you'll go like that, and you'll go like that. So 10 years gives you enough time to get it wrong and then
Yep,
recorrect yourself.
yep,
But sometimes 10 years is too much for people. If you can do 10 years, it's brilliant. But even just do
yeah.
5 years. And then we've got a plan to work back from as well. Because
Mm,
in 10 years' time, you want to be, say you want to be, for example, best-selling artists on,
yep.
say, like five worldwide platforms you want to be the best-selling artist of.
Mm,
There's a few components of a mission. It's got to be specific, and you've got to have a date to it, and usually a financial number or
mm.
something that can be measured.
Yeah, it's a smart goal, effectively.
A
But
smart, yeah.
um, and you're right. So, like, we often say 10 years.
Mm.
And the reason being is that also I think it's important for people to realize progress isn't linear. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, you
yeah.
will often have years and years. And someone told me this beautiful, like, analogy, and it's a bamboo shoot, right? You plant bamboo and it does nothing for years and years. Like, it's basically dormant for like 5, 6 years, maybe even 10 years. I can't remember the specifics. And you're like still there, water and nurturing, and nothing showing. And then 5, 6 years later, bam, it's like not just doing
Mm,
like a little millimeter, it's going up feet a day, even like it's going up like crazy. And the reason being is because it was creating the foundations, the root structures, and all that kind of stuff that it needed in order to create that level of growth, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of the time, it's like we kind of expect results immediately, and when we don't see them, it gets really disheartening. But when it's 10 years away, it
Yeah.
is a lot easier to be like, all right, well, I didn't get it this year, but I did get these things.
Yes.
And I I think that when it's too close, it can be overwhelming. But
Mm,
equally, I think sometimes people have difficulty just even visioning,
mm,
like having the level of imagination to think like, where could you be in 10 years?
yeah. Yeah, I've had all of that with people, when you've been going through the purpose and mission with them, that the
Yeah.
mission things for 10 years it can be just too much. So that's fine to cut it down. But the thing is, it's a roadmap for how you're going to get there.
Yeah.
I've also had people as well who just go mental with it. It's 10 years, I want $600 million, and you're sort of like, that's fine. I'm not one to knock anyone's ambitions of what they want. But
Yeah.
then it's like, this is your design of your business as well. So to create a business, say with, 5 million turnover,
Mm.
you're going to need, this is when we work it back, probably need a team. You might need space, you might need office space, it depends on what kind of business you're trying to create. But what does that business that you want to create, if it's a turnover of 5 million, what does that actually need? And is that something that you want to be involved in? Because when I've spoke to people as well and said, well, okay, this business is 5 million for your business, what does that look like? And they've said, oh, well, I'll need a team of this and this and that. Is that the thing that you want? Is that the life you're designing? And it can be, nah, no, I just want 3 people. I want this, they know what they want it to look like.
Right.
To look like that, it's probably not going to create the revenue that they were thinking. So it's like, well, okay, let's rewind that. With this business idea that you're looking at, what's the possible revenue of that? Does
Mm.
that work in with you? Or is that something that you need to change and realize that to do what you want to do, your
Are you
business
willing
is
to,
going to look different? And are you willing to do that?
yeah, are you willing to become the person that achieves that? Which is fine. Like,
Yeah.
I think also there's an aspect. So for me, I'm like, your goal has to be big and it has to kind of scare you a little bit,
Yeah.
but not so much that it is like impossible.
Yeah.
It has to feel like, it has to be like manageable in some way, but
Yeah.
has to be just
Yeah.
beyond your reach, but just a little bit, right? You don't want it to be like so crazy.
Yeah. To
Um,
make it exciting, to make it worthwhile all the effort.
right. But equally, sometimes it's like, why is that important? So asking why, like what's underneath that? What's underneath that? So for instance, you might not really need like 300 million bajillion dollars every year. You might just want financial freedom in
Yeah.
a particular lifestyle, and that might not even look like that
Mm.
amount of money.
Yeah.
It might be a lot less. So
Yeah.
I think having some like whilst obviously it's good to have like specifics and you should have specifics, asking why you want those specifics. Because,
Mm.
like, here's the thing, it's like, and also, like,
Yeah.
so one of the things I like to think about is like, there's always, when you go to rock concerts and there are always people like in the crowd and they always look up and they go, oh God, I'd really love that. Oh, I wish it was me with, ladies flinging their knickers at me. I wish that was me, right? Right? I'm sure everyone has that thought at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe that was, but here's the thing. In order to get to that point, you have to practice most days, like we're talking 10 hours a day, non-stop to keep your skills up that high.
Yeah.
So actually one of the things is not just like where you want to be, but also like, what would you love doing every single day? What could you
Mm.
go through every single day that will help you get there as well? And if you're thinking like, because like there's a lot of things that I would flippantly love to put on there. I would love to be a rock star and just have like loads of people do that, but do I really want it? Am I really willing to go the distance for that? Not really. Because it doesn't align with my purpose,
Mm.
right? If it was the same, but I was, not that I was ever want anyone flinging their underwear at me, but if I was like on stage
Yeah.
talking about space and getting people hyped, I would do the painful yards for that because it's in alignment with my purpose.
Yeah.
Like it's what I was put on here on earth to do, right?
Mm.
So I think also like the mission is not detached from the purpose. It's like if the purpose is like what you love to do, it's like the almost the
Yeah.
pinnacle of that, I guess.
Love it. Yeah. And I love the way you said, look at why. So when you
Mm,
set, your targets, say if it is to be a best-selling artist within top sites, why do you want to do that? Why is that important to you?
yeah,
It's a great opportunity, isn't it, to really give yourself some time and space to really nut this out. Because if you nut this out and understand why all this is so important to you, it's going to make such a difference to the daily grind when you have to knuckle down and do the things that you don't want to do. Then
yeah.
it's going to make a real difference because you know why.
Yeah, 100%. The one thing I would say though is that in being ambitious, often you find new ways to approach it
Mm,
and avoid being specific about how it's done.
definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
what you want to do is this is the North Star. I'm not saying this is how to get there. You might get there on a rocket ship. You might get there in a car. You might think, oh, I'll drive there in a car. And you might all think, oh, realize there's high speed rail. And then you realize there's a rocket ship or something. The point is, like, for me, when I thought about my mission, for the first few years, I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to achieve this, really. I know it's what I want to do, but I don't know how to do it. And it's actually taken, well, I'm now in year 6 of my art business. I probably had my mission 4 years ago, 3 years, 4 years ago, something like that. It's taken me this time to really understand how to execute on my mission because for a good period of time I was like, that's probably impossible. But like a beautiful example is like there was a lady who just loved working with animals. She loved working with animals, wanted to be a vet, failed all the courses, just could not get into veterinary school
Mm,
at all. And then what she did was she found another way. Her mission was to be impactful on X amount of animals' lives, and and yeah, whatever that was. I don't know the specific numbers. But the way she did it, she started a YouTube channel, and then she started a YouTube where she would talk about the different animals and share, and then she ended up with a Netflix show, and then like so on and so on. And it's like
yeah.
she has all of that impact. But
Yeah.
at the beginning, she just knew where what kind of like what is the mission? Where are we gonna plant our flag? But didn't really know exactly how to go about it. Now, if she was going to be going down the I'm a vet route, might be hard. Like all of a sudden, you've got to have 10 veterinary hospitals and all of these hundreds of nurses. Um, but if she wants to have it in a different way, if she wanted to do it via like by informing the masses now with millions and millions and millions of views, and
Mm,
like all these people writing in saying, "Oh man, you've changed the way that I handle animals."
yeah.
All of this kind of stuff. This has really helped me realizing actually all the different touches you could have. So what seemed like an almost impossible thing to achieve became highly possible with just a different way, and it just meant that she would have to sit and think about it. So
Yeah.
whilst I think that sometimes it's not ideal to have like when you put in a financial figure to have it ridiculous, but if you want to put in a figure of how many people you want to impact, how many
Mm,
animals or how many things or whatever it is that is your thing that you're passionate about, um, you can always have that as a high number, and you'll be amazed at how resourceful you can be
yeah.
to come up with things and ways about getting from where you are to where you're going to be.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's quite important, isn't it? If you've already got the how of how you're going to get there, well,
Mm.
then maybe your mission isn't big enough. Or, I'd say to somebody,
Right.
you're just thinking, you're so limiting your opportunities. Like that vet lady, there's no way in the world that when she's looking for vet schools, that she's thinking, oh, it'll take me in this direction, take you in a completely different direction. But like
Right.
through, her not being so closed off with like, well, that school didn't work, well, that's my ambition gone.
Yeah.
It
Over.
wasn't that, because she was so didn't have it fixed. If you don't have it fixed on how you're going to get there, then you'll open
Mhm.
yourself up to just all other opportunities that
100%.
will
So
come
it's
along.
like asking why and kind of knowing why you want to get there also helps, but not saying I want to get there through this
Yeah.
method,
Yes.
right? Because it becomes very limiting. I was mentoring a business owner who said, "Oh yeah, so my mission is to get a general manager or get a new manager into the business,
Mm.
um, so that business can turn over this amount. And I said, "Why is it? Why is that?" And she said, "Oh, basically, I want to free up my time." Anyway, after having a discussion with her, I realized that she was doing the cleaning. She was
Ah,
cleaning the whole office, and it was taking
ah,
4 hours or three hours a day at least. And I
yeah.
said, "Well, why not make the mission you have so much free time every single day to spend with your kids and spend that time playing, rather than I must do it in this method?"
Um,
Because now I was able to hire a cleaner, free herself up, and now I was able to get to the actual cause of it. She wanted to be with her kids.
mm,
Um, Hiring the manager would have been a very difficult task in the labor market as it was back
ah,
when we had these conversations. Hiring a cleaner is super easy though.
and the
She'd
cost of
execute
it
it.
as well. The cost of
She executed it
it.
that afternoon, and then the next day she was like, "Wow, I've got someone coming in to do a quote." And then the next week I chatted to her and she said, "Oh yeah, this is the first Monday I've had with my kids and I
Mm,
wasn't having to do any of the cleaning." And I said, "Have you got a cleaner for your house as well?" And she was like, "Oh, light bulbs." Even then it was like,
yeah.
it was like
Yeah.
your mission.
Yeah, so it might take a little bit of while to think a little bit differently because we automatically always go to, well, how am I going to do that? How are we going to do
Yeah,
it? Yeah, if you go on solution or how you're going to do it, get off that straight away. That is so, we'll get to that later on. We talk about
yeah,
things, talk about planning. That is really essential. We know that. But at this stage of what you're doing now,
no
it doesn't
solutions.
help you at all. No solutions.
No solutions. It feels so awkward when you're writing the mission to be like, I want to do this in this way. It's almost unnatural to not write a solution because
Yeah,
there's a tension between a goal and the brain just wants to find a way and it wants to write it down. But as soon as you write it down,
yeah.
it's like making a decision. And the word decision is like deci, as in like decimate or to destroy, right? The whole point of making a decision is you cut off all the other options. We don't want to cut off all the other options because all the other options are like these amazing, amazing epiphanies that you're going to have on how to get where you want to be. You know, I, I truly believe that everyone is only 2 steps away, realistically, from achieving something immense. Um, you just have to open yourself up to the possibility. So, firstly, knowing where you want to go, but then just leaving the how up to the whatever, because you will have those realizations. Or as you're going through your everyday process, you start to notice things and go, oh, I could do this, you know. And of course, you're going to try a bunch of things that might not work,
Mm.
but that's the beauty of having 5 or 10 years, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's why you make it like not in 6 months or 12 months time because the pressure is too much to get there. We do work it back. Once you've got your mission, then you
Yeah,
can work it back to step one and day one. So,
yeah,
if you want to like yours impact people with the stars, well then you've
right.
got to be posting things
100%.
about your stars and your art. You've got to focus on that.
So mine has always been getting a billion eyes looking up at the night sky. It's always been that. And I know it's very short and it's not very measurable, kinda. But the
You
way
have
in
got your,
which
you have got your measure on it, though, haven't you? You've got
there
a
is a measure,
yeah,
um,
and that's important that you know you have got a measure that you're going to. You can check art websites and no art sales and art. What was it
right,
before? Art and Fine Art America. See how many people are actually.
creating space art. Like I realized that if I want all of these people to do this thing, for me, connecting with the night sky is the most important thing. I hope everyone listening to this podcast goes out and looks at the stars at least once or twice because I do talk about it a lot. Um, but initially, I was like, wow, this is a big task for me. And then I realized it doesn't just have to be me. I could inspire artists. So that mission of a billion eyes looking up to the skies, it then became, inspiring 50,000 space artists. But again, it's not specific. It's not saying that I have to do it in this one specific way. It's not
Mm,
saying I have to inspire them by running paint and sips, or like brushes and beverages or whatever you call it. It's not, I'm not saying I have to do it through these methods. For me, I realized that creating social media or like creating viral media, and my new thing is like going through and making these things in YouTube, like tutorials, like the Bob Ross of space. I realized that's actually how I'm going to try and approach this mission. But I'm not having that in my mission. That is part of the next level down, which is like your tactical priorities of things you're going to test out.
yeah,
For now, I'm just focusing on what is it that I want to do? A billion eyes looking up at the skies
yeah.
and
But
inspiring 50.
it's sorry, Kat, but it's a great measure, isn't it? If somebody comes to you with an opportunity, then you can put it against your mission and see if it aligns with where it's going to take you.
Right.
So you
That's
don't
it.
get distracted by things that, it's not where you're going, it's not in your plan.
Yeah.
So you know to get discerning about what you want to take up and what's going to get you there.
Right. Because there's like a lot of different ways to approach that one. Like as an example, I could start a YouTube Bob Ross of the but space kind of style thing. I could instead write a best-selling novel that explains how to go out and stargaze. I could instead start to create a social movement to cut down light pollution so people can actually see the stars. It might be creating a national space day where I convince councils and stuff to turn the lights off for 30 minutes so everyone can go outside and look at the sky. It
Yeah,
could be any number of those things that would get me to my goal. And that's kind of the exciting bit
yeah.
because you
You do
can
TED Talk,
try
you
all
could
sorts
be a
of,
speaker,
yeah,
all things. Yeah.
absolutely.
And things that
So
you're not even in your thoughts at the moment.
right, there's a little bit a million other possibilities of how
Yeah.
to achieve it, but that's the point. It's got to be exciting. It's got to be something that sets your soul on fire. It's got to be something that you're a bit like, "Oh, how am I even going to do this?"
Yeah.
But it is possible. I've just got to be smart about it, or whatever it is. Um, because yeah, as you said something earlier, which I think is really important. If it's something you can already achieve, like, I want to have
Yeah.
X car,
Mm,
right? For instance, you've already bought a car, you know exactly how that works. Um, Maybe if it's like a really fancy one, but then the question is, of course, why do you want that? Is that really, really the most important impact that you want to have with your mission? Is that something you would get up and grind every day for? Maybe, maybe not. But it's got to be that thing where it's like, wow, I don't even know how to do this.
yeah.
And that's why it's exciting.
Yeah. And to have it that exciting, but not so it's like completely out of your realm of thinking that
Right. So,
you can't you
like,
can't even compute at the moment with that. So it has got to be in your realm that not that you think it's achievable, but I think when we think things are achievable, there's not the excitement's not there. But when we think something is a little bit extra, a little, it's a stretch for us, that's when the
right,
excitement and the oh my God comes in. And that's
right.
you've hit the
So
right.
you want it to be out, just tantalizingly out of reach,
Mm,
but still not like totally impossible. And the measure I like to use for this is, you know, do I know, could I find 10 people that have done this before, or like gone along these kind of lines before? If
mm,
the answer is no one's ever done this, I mean, maybe it's still possible, but
yeah,
you do have to at least have that conversation. And if you still go, I'm dead set after it, after
yeah,
having that conversation, then go for it.
yeah,
But
yeah,
like for instance, I would like to make a painting on the moon,
yeah,
but so it's visible from space. You would need more paint than there is minerals available, and it would be basically kind of impossible. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know. In some hearts, like it's funny because like in some hearts, I'm like just dream wild, but dream wild on things that you actually want.
Dream wild on this planet, on this reality.
Yeah, but it is funny because there is that fine line between getting something that isn't something you could achieve right now, is something that is like, it is like you know what? I think a good way to look at it is like, if you were to die in 10 years, it's very morbid.
Yeah.
What is it that you want to be remembered for achieving?
Mm.
Um, what is it that what mark is it that you want to leave on the earth?
Yeah.
And like what impact is it? You know, where is it that when someone writes something on your gravestone, Christmas or cat meeting,
Yeah, do
or
you
something or something. It's a bit morbid. It is morbid, but I think that it's very I think it's actually really helpful,
Mm.
um, because I love doing the deathbed test.
Yeah.
Simple, isn't it? I often do this when something's really stressing me out. I'm
Yeah.
like, if I'm on my deathbed,
Yeah.
would I actually care about this thing? Or is it something that is like, why are you getting so stressed about this? Or like, is this really what you want to do for your rest of your life? Are you sure? And like sometimes I'm like, nah.
So much stuff is not important, isn't it? Yeah.
All right, well,
So your mission
what?
is when, with whom, and
Yep,
what. So, and then a measure of how you're going to measure it. So a SMART
how
goal
do you know?
is
Yeah.
specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based.
And the time is basically either 5 years or 10 years. So that bit is basically easy.
Yeah.
So that bit is fine, right? Figure 5, 10, or 10 years, whichever, and then work backwards from there. So what is it you want to create? What is it for your wildest imagination?
Yeah.
Um, because like here's the thing. You can like if for instance I decided that I didn't just want to do a YouTube thing, but I wanted to do it on TV and it would be nationally recognized. I reckon that I could email 10
Mm.
TV producers literally just by trawling through LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
I could produce a beautiful handwritten letter and get it sent to them with,
You'll be
you
doing it
know,
after this.
I will be a 7 foot teddy bear so they can't bloody miss the damn thing. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
You could basically do that. You could send it to play like, I mean, if you wanted to get in front of someone to
Yeah.
send that, it's surprising. We've actually got an email, we've actually got a podcast in the past, which is like how to reach out to your ideal clients via email. Highly recommend it. But
Adam,
you're
who's
basically
fantastic. Yeah.
it's amazing, isn't it?
Fantastic.
So if you haven't listened to that podcast, definitely do. But you're basically only a few button clicks away from messaging any single human being in the world. So the
Yeah.
potential is amazing. Obviously, certain people are harder to get in touch with, but you would be surprised because I think a lot of people think, well, everyone's messaging them, they will never respond. You'd be surprised.
But now we're
Um,
getting into the how at the moment.
but
That's just
but
proven that the how is possible
so
no matter what.
the reason why I'm saying is you don't
Yeah.
need to write that down, but you just have to realize that a lot more is possible than you could probably ever think of.
Yeah.
You just have to be a little bit imaginative and a little bit creative, but a
Yeah.
lot like people have so much more potential than they realize.
Yeah. And so with the specific as well, it's
Yeah.
like one or two lines. That's it. It's not a paragraph.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not, it's like something really quick that you can tell somebody
yeah.
what it is. Yeah, because it just
Right.
gets confusing, and we know we just everybody adds just babble and rubbish, and then you start to explain, then you get into the how. So it's just
Short and succinct. That's actually a really good point because if you can't reel it off the top of your mind, then
yeah,
is it really good? Like, what's the point in having a mission that you can't remember? Like,
yeah,
that's a bit of
yes,
an issue.
yeah,
So, for me, a billion eyes looking up to the skies
yeah,
now in 5 years' time, because I have started mine a while back, um, for me it's manageable. Like I can remember it, I know exactly why I'm doing this and I know exactly where I'm going. The
mm,
how is still very mysterious, but I'm definitely
yeah,
starting to like form ideas on how to do that. But that's not the point. The point is I know where I'm going.
yeah,
um I don't know how I'm getting there. I mean, I do now, but like still,
but you
you
still
know.
don't. Another opportunity might come.
It's
Let's
still,
bring
well,
it.
yeah, that's it. I've got a theory, but on my day-to-day operations, how I'm going to achieve my mission. But the truth is that as you walk down many paths, there are things that you realize that you're like, oh, okay. I didn't know there'd be this kind of roadblock in this particular area. That's fine. I can do this. So, on the map, it looks like you go from A to B, but the reality is you're like all over the place. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and
Up and down ravines.
having your mission sort of keeps you a bit closer to the path because you're not saying yes to
Yes.
things that aren't
Aren't
aligned
relevant.
because you've got a
Yeah.
clear picture of where you want to be. So you will
Yeah.
know when it's good to align yourself with certain people or certain things.
You know what? That's actually a really good point. A lot of people, if they don't define where their North Star is, what they want to achieve,
Mm.
and I'm all fine for occasional side quests because sometimes it will bring, come back around, or you just might need a break or a bit of relief or whatever. Fine. But sometimes people spend years churning in a direction, or spinning around in a circle, or just not going where they actually want to be, like what they're destined to be. And it's just years and years lost.
Yeah.
You
And
just,
yeah, I've just thought like, and we need to pull this back as well. How does it relate to marketing? It does
well,
everything to do with marketing because
yeah,
you're actually talking the same story over again. You're so
mm,
in line with yourself that you will attract people who are in line with you.
yeah. It's funny because yeah, like, again, it's like when people come to us and say, hey, none of my marketing's working, I don't know why. And it's funny because you go, well, actually, the problem isn't all of this other stuff. It's that you don't have the foundations, your purpose and your mission. Once you've got those two things set up, it is so much easier to communicate to people why you are on earth, what are you trying to achieve. Like, every piece of artwork or photography or creative work, whether it's someone's making videos or someone's making music, there's actually a reason and a core to it. Now, sometimes it's very simple. It might just be to bring joy. But when you are able to say, I am heading in this direction, anyone want to join me on this bus, on this ride to
Mm.
this destination? All of a sudden, it's not just a you're doing something just because. You've suddenly got a goal, and there is nothing more exciting for people to realize that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, so it goes hand in hand, and that's why, you know, we think these things, well, I did at the beginning, aren't important, but
Oh gosh.
it's so important to get to find your people, to find your
100%.
your tribe.
It is really funny, isn't it? Because you think, as you said, like a lot of people be like, why are we talking about this for marketing? Well, it is critical, and it's like bizarre because it doesn't feel like it's related, and yet it is the very foundation of why people actually connect with artwork or any creative work. When
Yeah.
they realize what it is, they know why you stand on earth, and now they know what it is you're trying to achieve. That is a way to connect to another human being is
Mm.
absolutely incredible. It's like almost getting to the soul of a person and why they're doing it. If you want to find your people, being
Yeah.
able to say, this is who I am, what I'm doing
Yeah.
is the core to the connection. I think so
And I
anyway.
suppose, yeah, and I suppose like you're finding your marketing really hard, and you're going, what do I post? What do I say? It's because you're not connected to your mission. You
Right?
don't know what you stand for. You don't know what you want to say just yet. So
Right.
that's why this exercise is really good because every day you'll be posting things, but they're relevant. You're not posting for posting's sake of,
Right.
I just need to get my picture up there. You're posting because you want to make a difference. It's important to you. It's part of
Yep.
who you are, it's your mission, it's your purpose, and you want to share that with everybody.
100%. And it's funny, like again, it's just like all art is realistically is a self-portrait of what it is that we deeply care about,
Mm,
or not so much deeply care about, but it's a self-portrait of what we're fascinated with to the point that we want to create artwork based upon it,
mm,
whatever it is. Um, because I often see a lot of people on Instagram or on other social media platforms, and you look through their artwork, and it's just like a mishmash of everything. It's like going through a jumble sale. There's no,
yeah,
it's just they try a bit of this, that, which is fine, all for experimentation. But it's all good and well to try different styles. In fact, I highly think it's really important.
yeah,
But if there's nothing that connects any of these pieces,
mm,
like if the thing is that you realize is that you're just fascinated with birds, the idea of that freedom and and you think that like there's something so deeply interesting about the fact that, you know, birds are able to see the world from a different perspective.
mm,
You can create birds in so many different mediums, styles, textures, do it in pottery, do it in film, do it in whatever, right?
yeah,
That thing that you are fascinated by.
yeah,
Well, what are the people that are fascinated with that? Or, let's say your mission is to raise awareness about, the dangers to certain species.
mm,
Suddenly, it's not just people that are interested in birds, but now people that are interested in the environment and protection, and all those people that are now on your side. They're like, oh, I get it. You're not just some random art page. You're actually standing for something. I'm going to come along with a ride with you. That's why it's like so important. So, because and it takes time, like of course,
yeah.
like I think a lot
And
of us.
that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. You can experiment with that, putting your feelers out for what what you feel comfortable talking about,
Right.
what's your thing. But yeah,
I mean, and it takes years to write one, and it changes. I must have rewritten mine like I did it rewrote it a little bit different every
yeah,
quarter for like
yeah,
4 or 5 years. So, even I am like 20 iterations in. It's
yeah,
all vaguely in the same direction. And it's funny because your purpose is pretty much consistent thereabouts. Like it
yeah,
has very little movement. Your mission has more movement in the sense of it evolves a little bit more than your
mm,
purpose. Your purpose is just very core to you, but like what it is you want to achieve does adjust. And it also adjusts as you mature, as you become wiser, as you like realize what it is that you actually want to do, as you experience the world and see stuff around you that you go, oh, actually, this is the thing, right?
yeah,
But I think be forgiving on yourself if you can't just come up with it in a second, because I'm not going to say no one does. I don't want to put that in people's minds, but it's
mm,
not that likely. And if it is, that's fine. But also be okay with the fact that it's gonna adjust a little bit as
yeah.
well.
It can, but everything that we talk about is just start, isn't it? Just
Yeah,
start.
just
Just
stop.
have something. It really doesn't matter if
Yeah.
you sort of think, oh, like I think most of us when we put the first one down, it's like, oh, it'll do.
Oh, oh man, I've done some cringes.
But
I
it,
look and I go, ugh.
but that's
But
how you start. You've just got to have a starting point, and
get
then
it down.
yeah,
But ultimately, eventually, and it's the same with purpose, you find the thing that is worth fighting for, and
mm,
the thing that you can't. It's like, for me, someone has ADHD, I'm very forgetful. I like lose track of things. I change my mind, I change my hobbies, change my interests. Everything's new all the time. I'm in chaos. Um, but there are certain pervasive thoughts, things that just are things that no matter how
mm,
wild everything else might be, it's the thing that I always come back to and wonder about, whatever that, for me, that is. And that's why it's so, and it's that thing, the thing that is whatever you continually come back to that ends up being your purpose and ends up being your mission and
yeah,
ends up being the foundation of why you create artwork. And I know we have people listening to these podcasts that make YouTube videos, and we've got people that make music, we've got people that make artwork, we've got people that do photography,
mm,
and I know that the urge is to like photo all different things but find the common thread as
yeah,
well.
yeah. We talked about that. There has to be
And
something when people look at your work that they actually know that it's you.
absolutely, absolutely. So, Chris, We're on to our top three things.
Make it a long-term goal, 5 to 10 years. Because if it's 6 months and things go wrong, you're going to get really disheartened and just think, oh, it's not working. It's just not happening for me. It takes time. It takes time. You're building a business here. So
Mm,
building a business, it just takes time. So,
yep.
unless you're really lucky, again, yeah, don't put that in people's heads, but genuinely. And also you can get off track. So it gives you time to pull yourself back on track. Number two, it's okay to do it big, but just not so huge that you just write it off before you even start because you think, I don't know how I'm going to get there. And and also if you know how you're going to get there, then it's not big enough. And if it's not giving you that little bit of excitement when you wrote it
Resist.
down,
Mm,
then it's not big enough.
yep.
And it's not for anybody else, it's just for you. You can share it, you can share it and use it in your marketing if that's feels like it resonates with you. But otherwise, you don't have to share it with anyone. It's just for you to keep you on track. And that's number three. Yeah, it'll keep you on track. So when you get offers from people to do things, like people might say, come in a show with me, or do a talk or something, you will know if that is right for you. Because like sometimes we just like all these opportunities, don't we? It's like somebody's asked me to be in a show. Oh my God, that's so exciting to be in a show. But then it doesn't resonate with what you want and it's not
Right.
aligned with you, then that's something that you'll know straight off that that's great, but that's taking you off track, and it will take you longer because then you're going off track again when you'll have to go back on track. So that's my top three.
Awesome. All right. So my top three. Well, I was actually, it's so funny. We are almost the same person because I think we both write these down privately, but I wrote almost the same. So everyone picked some different ones. I think the number one thing for me is before you write your mission, work on your purpose first.
Hmm.
Figure out why before you figure out where you're going. So, why is it you're doing? So, if you haven't listened to part one, which is talking about purpose, go back and listen to it and start working on it. Not all of Rome wasn't built in a day. It's fine, but start by working on your purpose first before you work on your mission. Okay, number one. Number two, make it so that it is memorable. You want to be able to have this thing that is always with you. It shouldn't be a manifesto that's like 20 pages long that there's no chance in hell that you're going to remember anything. It shouldn't even be a paragraph long, really. It should just be one or two lines that you can roll off the tongue and you connect with it. But be okay with the fact that it might not connect with you initially. You just got to try a few things. That's fine. But yeah, start with your so step one is start with your purpose first. Step two, of course, make it memorable. And number three, I'm going to say exactly the same thing as you, Chris, because I have to say it again, is that it has to inspire you. It has to set your soul on fire. It has to be the thing that you're like, I would walk through hell and hellfire and back, to get to this. This is something that I really believe in, and it's something that I really want to achieve. Um, because I think if you've not got that, because here's the thing also, it's not always going to be sunshine and flowers all the way. Of course, in any business there is ups and downs. you know, Gosh, we've just gone through a few years of those. So it's got to be something that's worth going the distance for. So it has to be something that just you're like, yes, if I could do this thing, I would literally die happy. Keep on talking about death. I know that's so morbid, but it's got to be one of those kind of things. Um, and I mean, I know this is number four, but yeah, actually maybe it's the same. Inspiring. It's got to be big enough to inspire you. Obviously, not so big that it's going to scare you away. And I guess we can call it the inspiration zone
Yeah.
of a goal, which is that it's not so big that it's soul crushing and you can't get out of bed. I have an amazing business mentor that thinks way bigger than I do. His name's Albert, and I love him. And one time he helped me write my mission, but he thinks on such a ginormous scale that I just couldn't. I mean, like I was like, yes, I'm gonna do this. I couldn't, and I felt so crushed. Um, and I realized that some different people have different scales.
Mm,
What's ginormous to one person is tiny to another. It just got to be right for you. So it's got to be in that inspiration zone, not so big that you're like, it's never ever, not in a trillion years. It's literally no one on earth has ever done it. It's totally impossible.
yeah, I think
Um,
we've hammered that home, haven't we? I
right.
think everyone's
But it's also, yeah, so it's good enough that it's like, it's something you've never done before. So yeah.
very
There we
important.
go. That's my top three. Anything else you want to add, Chris?
No, I think that's great. I think we covered everything. I hope.
We've been on our soapbox a lot.
Yeah,
Okay, so ask us in the comments if you have any questions or anything that you're curious about, in particular about mission. You can even share your mission, and if you want any feedback, we're happy to give you feedback. Make sure you give us a follow on all the social media platforms. Next week, we are going to be talking about part three, which is why your marketing's not working, and we're going to be talking about how you can attract the correct clients for you.
great.
Until next
Look
time.
forward to it. See you next week.